First things first, everyone. I'm Jenna Wolfe. That's the Hall of Famer Cris Carter. That is Nick Wright. And, folks, we are done with an incredible baseball season.
Congrats to my former home of Houston.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I've had a lot of confidence in your former home. Didn't pick them. Nick, I'm wrong again. Yep, there you go, Houston.
But you did.
Good morning.
Yeah, I was rolling with the Astros.
Yeah,
It's very easy for Cris to get series right because at the beginning of a series, he'll pick one team. At the end of the series, he'll pick the other. And then either way, he gets to be right.
Either way, he's right. He just knocked you a little bit.
What about your MVP?
Whoa,
How many hits
whoa.
did he have? Oh, okay.
All right, we are going to get into it in just a bit.
Didn't work out well. Giants going to the Super Bowl.
Let's
I'm on a bad
match
streak.
pictures with words. Baseball 2017 came to an end last night after a fantastic season and postseason, and it was all Houston in Game 7 against the Dodgers. The Astros scored 5 runs in the first 2 innings. That's all they needed to do as they held on to win this one 5-1. It is the first World Series in the team's 56-year history. Sights and sounds now from after the game, starting with Jose Altuve on Playing for the Fans.
We did this for them. You know, I know we've been a lot. It's been a lot going on in Houston since last year, but this is because of them. They are the biggest reason why we're here playing every day.
I'm so happy for all of our fans who have endured a lot, and we're coming home champions.
We put ourselves out there to fail, and we did, but you know, not many teams got that opportunity. So not easy right now for sure.
Look, as far as Houston goes, it was a great game. They did everything they were supposed to do. They were the exact team they were in the offseason and that in the regular season, and that's basically what won it for them yesterday. Nick, what was the key to the Astros win, in your opinion?
Missed opportunities by their opponent. I mean, we will and we can talk about Yu Darvish and whether or not he was giving a little extra unintentional information to the Astros. But first inning, Dodgers, first and second, 1 out. 0 runs. Second inning, first and second, 1 out. 0 runs. Third inning, first and second, nobody out. 0 runs. Fifth inning, first and second, 1 out. No runs. So, I mean,
0 for 10 with runners in scoring positions. 0 for 10. That is a glaring stat. You do not want to end this series. I'm sorry, that's what you were going to follow.
No, I was going to say that was a quicker way to make the point I was making. I probably should have just said that.
We have 3 hours, though,
but
that's a huge point.
I mean, and I understand that 5-1 feels like, okay, so it wasn't a close game. They were 5-0 the whole time. But if after the first inning, when the Astros put up a 2 spot, if you just score 1 and it's 2-1, if after the second inning, when the Astros have 5 runs, if you've taken advantage of a couple of those opportunities and all of a sudden it's 5-2 or 5-3, I think things go differently, especially because Houston didn't have confidence in their bullpen. So I think it was missed opportunities in Game 7, the one game of this World Series to me that wasn't really exhilarating from start to finish.
I'll go back to game number 5 because that's the game that I thought the Dodgers lost the series. You know, if they're able to come through, Kershaw had a huge lead in Game 5.
Yep.
Them not being able to hold on to that lead in Houston to be able to get one win there, which decidedly would move the series in their favor with 2 more games at Dodger Stadium, to be able to lose Game 7 in Dodger Stadium, the first Game 7 ever, you have to give the pitchers some run support early. And I think Houston getting out of the box early, getting on the board, that relieves a lot of the pressure. Now, we'll have to wait to hear from more of the players. Was Darvish tipping his pitches? But going into this series, there was no reason for the Dodgers to believe that Darvish wouldn't be able to handle the Astros, which he had pitched for them before.
He pitched against them in the division.
Yes, in the division. Was very, very familiar with them because when you look at it, be like, okay, who's more familiar with the Astros?
Nobody.
It's him. Right. But he got rocked twice. They lost a big lead in game number 5. The run productivity for the Astros early in Game 7, because that atmosphere, when you're a road team, people say, oh, you have to get off to a fast start. It's just not coach speak. It's just not players trying to tell you, because you're able to take the crowd out of the game. And then in the bottom of the first and the bottom of the second, where they were able to negate the Dodgers from starting a rally or getting those runs to get the crowd back into the game for momentum. I thought those were huge points in the series that turned it in the Astros' favor.
Yu Darvish gave you 1 2/3 in Game 3. nobody thought he was going to come back in this game and also struggle. You just didn't.
Give
you
you
didn't think
1
that.
2/3 again. He was worse in Game 7 than he was in Game 3.
And he was terrible in Game 3.
Yeah, and it was. Listen, this is only the second time in the last 3 years, Jenna, that Darvish has had back-to-back awful starts. Like, so you couldn't have seen it coming, and I think we saw, and to give Alex Rodriguez pointed it out during the game. Alex Rodriguez and David Ortiz asked Carlos Beltran about it after the game, and Beltran conceded, it seemed, at least he was beginning to, and then he stopped talking about it, that Darvish was tipping his pitches. And this is Darvish earlier this season. Got lit up in a game that he then conceded afterwards. He was tipping his fastball. It's against the Marlins. D. Gordon hits his first home run of the season in a game against Darvish. And then after, I think, Christian Yelich hits one right afterwards. So all of a sudden, Yedlin. Christian Yelich is the soccer player. But
he probably also did it.
And so Darvish has a history of, at times, tipping his pitches. The point that I would make, though, is if Alex Rodriguez noticed it, how did no one on the Dodgers staff, no coach, notice it after Game 3 or after the first inning of Game 7? He threw 14 breaking balls in Game 7 in the first inning, generated 0 swings and misses. That's almost unheard of for Darvish. That's where, if Alex Rodriguez can see it from the Fox booth, one of the coaches has to get to him.
See, then you bring Kershaw and he gives you 4 scoreless innings. Was there a part of you that thought, can you imagine? I know hindsight, but can you imagine if you started Kershaw right off the bat, what would have happened?
Not on 3 days. I think
even though you saw what he did last night?
Well, you still have to. Well, I mean, it's easy to say, but who are they going to go to next? Because whoever they go to next can be touched up too.
Yeah.
So he could have got 4 shutout innings, but the game's not over with. But they were throwing the best pitchers they had at the Astros. And the Astros, their bats were just better. Typically in this situation, we say, oh, great pitching. It will it will supersede great hitting. But the Astros the Astros did what they've done throughout the season. So seeing that in Game 7 wasn't a surprise. Now, they hadn't been able to hit in Dodger Stadium in the 3 previous games, but this is the Astros team that we saw in 2017.
And Jenna, they acquired Darvish, so they wouldn't listen, I understand that Sandy Koufax 50 years ago started on 2 days rest, but that's not something that happens anymore.
Sure.
Like that, just period, point blank, that's not something that you see happen anymore. And the same reason the Astros went and got Justin Verlander, the Dodgers went and got Darvish.
Yes.
And I understand one guy pitched brilliantly this postseason or this World Series, and one guy pitched maybe his 2 worst games as a Dodger in the World Series. But I think I'm all for second guessing. I think saying they should have started Kershaw is no. I know you're not saying it, but other people are saying it and wondering, hey, if he could go those 4 innings. And by the way, he didn't look tired. No. They took him out just because his spot was coming up in the order and they needed some offense. Kershaw looked awesome, but I mean, I understood why they trusted Darvish there.
Yeah, but also Kershaw coming in, trying to stop a rally compared to starting the game. The amount of pressure that was on him. I mean, there really wasn't any pressure. They had a huge lead when he came into the game. Now, if you start him, because he's had some problems too. Now, typically, he keeps them in the game, and that was the difference between Darvish and Verlander. Verlander, the first time, he was nice. But he kept him in the game in the second appearance, which allowed the team not to utilize its bullpen. And that's a huge factor, the Dodgers and the use of their bullpen or their bullpen kind of collapsing at the end of the season.
This is a wonderful win for the Houston Astros, for everything they've been through, for the city, for the people, for recovery, for all of it. It's just a really great win for them. And you have to tip your cap to the Dodgers. They won 104 games this regular season. They sailed through the NLDS. They sailed through the NLCS. So it was just a pretty good.
I think that's a Jenna Wolfe thing. They got 104 wins. They have the type of roster they should win the World Series. Vegas has them as the favorite for next year, so I don't have a hat on, so I don't tip my hat to them. Ain't no prizes, ain't no participation trophies.
I will tip our collective hat to one man whose name we haven't said yet, but we should have, George Springer, the World Series MVP. Now he is the record holder for total bases in a World Series. He's the co-record holder for home runs in a World Series. George Springer was tremendous and a very deserved World Series MVP.
Moving on to the Cowboys, who will theoretically play their first game without Ezekiel Elliott on Sunday. They're taking on the Kansas City Chiefs on the off chance they want a challenge. Dallas will be forced to rely heavily now on quarterback Dak Prescott. Here is Dak Prescott on Dallas's chances moving forward.
I don't think anything can happen in this locker room, outside this locker room, that will take the confidence away from this team. And it's not going to happen from taking a player away from us. We know we'll have him back, and we're going to make the most of it when he's gone.
All right, CC, I think a lot now falls in the lap of Dak Prescott with Ezekiel Elliott out.
We're getting ready to find out.
No, we are getting ready to find out. Is that pressure that falls in his lap, or is this offense going to remain the same and he just has to keep everything moving forward?
No, there's no way the offense can remain the same because there's no replacement for Ezekiel Elliott. The type of force that he's able to run with, the way they're able to dominate the line of scrimmage, because he's not only a great inside runner, he's a great outside runner. He has breakaway speed. So how did they duplicate that? Let's just go back to last season. All right? Let's not forget the Dallas Cowboys 13-3. We did everything that we could do to take credit away from Dak Prescott as part of the cog of why they're good. All right? So now we're not going to – people would argue last year when we were on shows, who's more important, Zeke or Dak?
Wait. Go back to what you just said. Is that because Tony Romo, everyone wanted sort of Tony Romo to play, or because Zeke was so good?
We was beyond Tony Romo. We know Tony Romo was washed. We knew Dak was the real quarterback. But in giving Dallas credit, the debate was who's more important, the quarterback
or the running
back.
Okay.
But the thing about it is you can't even make an evaluation without the offensive line. Okay? So now we're going to remove the running back based on his situation. The pressure, there's no pressure on anyone in Dallas but Dak. You know the reason why? Because just like they didn't want to give him credit last year, he's the only one that they're going to blame. If the defense gives up 30 points, they're going to blame Dak. If the offense sputters, they're going to blame Dak. That's the way it goes.
If the offensive line reverts back to how they were early this season as opposed to how they were last season, no one's going to care. They're going to blame Dak.
Yes.
And that's why I'm so excited. Because I am...
Now it's time to give him all the credit?
Well, I think...
No,
Cece,
now
you and I, we did a week of shows filling in for Skip and Shannon last year, and I was advocating that Dak Prescott should be on the very short list for NFL MVP.
I was Skip.
What?
He was Shannon.
Yeah, okay. Fair enough.
Obviously.
You know where I stand on Dak Prescott. I've been buying his stock. It's been going up. It's like Bitcoin. Just keep buying, keep buying, keep buying. I'm so excited for what we are about to see because you are correct. All the pressure is on him, and I think he will thrive under that pressure. Additionally, Dak Prescott is now entering a world very different than last season. Last season, who was the young quarterback of the month for everyone, the flavor of the month? At young quarterback was Dak Prescott universally. Whether you thought he was good, great, transcendent, lucky situation, he was the guy. No one cared about Jared Goff. There was no other person in the discussion. Well, he's been passed now. Right now, everyone's talking about Deshaun Watson.
Yes.
And if they're not talking about Deshaun Watson, they're talking about a guy in his division, in his draft class, Carson Wentz. And so Dak, all of a sudden, if he wants to get himself back in the discussion as far as who is the best really young quarterback, right now I think for most people, that's a two-person discussion, Watson and Wentz. And Dak is sitting there saying, well, what about me? Now is his opportunity to show he belongs in the discussion with those guys.
Jenna, do you remember a couple years ago when Tom Brady was in the Super Bowl, he threw a nice little pass to Wes Welker down the seam. It was behind him.
Like it was yesterday.
And he dropped it.
2011
Do you remember his wife commented on social media?
Can't throw and catch.
Okay. What's Dak going to do? Is he going to throw it and catch it? Because you told America, okay, now this is the time for Dak. Then I need you to explain the wide receiving core, how they're going to make these plays. Because unless Dak is going to throw it and catch it.
I'm glad you said that, CC, because while the Cowboys do not have an elite wide receiving core, can we stop acting like the Cowboys wide receiving core is the worst in football, bottom 5 in the NFL? It's not. Like they have a B+ level player in Dez Bryant. They have
what does that mean? A guy you're paying $12 million.
Oh, so he can be overpaid.
Do they have a number one guy?
I think Dez Bryant would be the number one. Hold up. I think Des Bryant would be the #1 guy on 15
Just your
teams.
pause right there. Even for us to pause and say, Des Bryant, is he a #1? I think Des Bryant's a #1, but I wanted to see what you were going to say.
Yeah, but I think he's not a top 10 receiver, but by definition, there's got to be 32 #1s.
Top 20.
Hey, 20, 18 to 22, somewhere in that range. So Des Bryant's a B+ player. Cole Beasley at his job is a B- B player.
Come on, stop.
Cole Beasley is a slot receiver?
Cole Beasley is a C.
As a slot receiver?
A C.
Okay. All right, that's fine. Jason Witten is a what?
Jason Witten is right now, he's only averaging 9 yards per catch, 9 more than Nick Wright. He's a C-. And the only reason why he's a C- is because he's a Hall of Famer. They have no vertical threat in the middle of the field. They have no vertical threat outside the field. They are a slow football team. All right? So how is Dak going to do this? That's not what I'm supposed to come up with, because I know they're not going to be able to do it. All right? The wide receiver core without Zeke, it's impossible for them to perform better when they have more guys committed to the line of scrimmage, and now they're going to be more guys committed to pass coverage.
Okay, so they have to. So how they have to, that's not our problem. The Dallas Cowboys will figure that out. That becomes Dak's problem. And I think it's a problem or an issue or a situation that he wants to be in, because he spent all last season having to prove to people that he belongs on the field and that they shouldn't have put Tony Romo in. And he spent all last season as not the star of this team, even though he took that team to 13 wins because Zeke was in the lineup. And then he spent the beginning of this season hearing everybody say the line is a little bruised up, but Zeke is what's keeping them in this. Now, for the first time, everything's on Dak Prescott. But this is the spotlight that he should have. If he wants to be the leader on this team and the quarterback moving forward, he should want these next 6 games.
No. He is the leader. He will be their quarterback for the next 10 to 12 years.
No doubt.
But, Jenna, you're not accurate in depicting the quarterback, because every quarterback wants help. Like, they want to be good, but they want help. And they know that based on the way the game is played in the NFL, you need ball players. You need playmakers. They have a dominant offensive line, but their playmakers aren't consistent. So quarterbacks don't think that way. Aaron Rodgers is not thinking, you know something, I don't need Jordy Nelson. He's like, no, I do need Jordy Nelson. I do need Randall Cobb. I would like to have a running game.
But the only indispensable player on really good offenses is the quarterback. Like, there is, if you're a really good offense, the only indispensable player is your quarterback. You can have a great wide receiver. Take the Steelers, for example. Antonio Brown is a great wide receiver, but they are a really good offense. If he goes down, they can be a facsimile of themselves. They can't be the exact same thing, but they can make it work as long as Big Ben is there. Now, mediocre teams, take like the Giants, you lose your only real playmaker, it's a different story. That's not how I look at the Dallas Cowboys. And where I agree with Jenna is, and maybe, I say this all the time, CC, one of the best things about sports is we get to find out who's right. So maybe I'll be proven wrong.
But a lot of times before you make predictions, you're able to see what people have done, and that helps you make a prediction that helps make you be more accurate. Because, yes, we make big statements, we have big proclamations, but I'd like to be right.
I understand, but
I don't like to guess.
Right, but CC, you're acting as if there's no data points in my favor. Dak Prescott threw 23 games. And I understand he's had a great running back through all of those games.
Yeah.
Through 23 games, a 102 career passer rating.
Yes.
37 touchdowns to 8
Yeah, they got 8 guys in the box all the time. It's easier to throw the ball with less guys, Nick.
He's not the first rookie or first and second year quarterback who's had a great running back with him, who's had a good offensive line. But he's had one of, if not the best, statistically, starts to a career since Dan Marino or Kurt Warner.
Listen, this is where you get this mixed up. Dallas Cowboys, the 2 greatest quarterbacks, Roger Staubach and Troy Aikman. Mm-hmm. All right? The latter of the 2, Troy Aikman. Troy Aikman didn't get any credit for Dallas being great. All right? There's nothing wrong with that. I know Troy, good friend of mine. Troy don't care. You act like it's important that Dak gets credit compared to being the director of a winner.
I don't think it's about credit. I think it's that while maybe Troy didn't get the credit, people weren't questioning how good he was. I think people
I'm not questioning.
I think maybe you're not. I think people are questioning how good
don't
Dak
say
is.
maybe. I've never questioned Dak's ability as a quarterback. I'm just telling you the wide receiving core is average.
Eric Mangini's here. Let the handshakes begin. Did I miss it? Because I looked away for a second.
Yes.
I missed it.
And we're text buddies now.
You guys
Coach
are
texted
texting?
me about
I'm sorry,
playing
Coach.
Madden. Yeah.
Well,
No, can I just give a little behind the scenes?
A little aggressive.
We have one commercial break. They spent the entire time talking about a video game. What was it?
Madden.
That's the video game.
Absolutely. Coach is in.
Look, I'm learning about it because I've got 3 boys. They want to play. They don't help me at all.
Right, it's just you. You're out there.
They're talking trash to you, too,
They
Coach.
are. My 9-year-old was killing me after he beat me.
I got you, Coach. I'll teach you later today after the show.
All right, Coach. Let's go to the big NFL trade of the week. Jimmy Garoppolo traded to the 49ers for a second-round pick. We have only seen Garoppolo start 2 games in his 4 years in the league, and that second game he hurt himself. Coach, tell us a little bit about what Belichick saw in Garoppolo, but first, how surprised were you by this trade?
I was very surprised by this trade. And the first thing he told me is that the market for him this offseason wasn't nearly as strong as it was projected to be, where they're talking about 2 number 1s, and there's so much discussion about that. I was surprised, too, that Bill would trade him at this point. And you look at Aaron Rodgers, you look at Derek Carr's injury last year, Ryan Tannehill, Marcus Mariota, the idea that they're going to go into the second half of the season with Tom, and I know that Hoyer was part of this trade, essentially, but there's a little bit of I don't know if it's ego or what the word is.
Hubris?
That could be the word, too.
Okay, what does that mean?
Well, just the
overconfidence almost. The belief that you're untouchable.
But what that says to me too is they don't feel that there's going to be that much of a difference between Garoppolo and Hoyer if Tom Brady gets hurt.
Or could it be? Let me ask you this: could it also be that they were less invested in a plan without Brady because the belief was if Brady suffers a Rodgers type of injury, no matter who his backup is, we're screwed anyway?
Well, I don't necessarily think that's the case. If you feel like the backup quarterback, if you feel like Jimmy Garoppolo is a franchise quarterback who's going to be a special guy, that to me is a different equation than, just getting another backup quarterback that has similar financials. I think it's a different outlook, a different perspective.
But didn't this have the feel that Belichick did consider him like another franchise guy? He kept him for a long time, could have gotten rid of him sooner. He drafted him, he scouted him, like he wanted him on his team. He kept him as long as possible, knew that he'd probably lose him at the end of the year, not get anything for him. Traded him right, like at the very last minute. Well, you could tell he wanted to hold on to him.
I understand that, but he's a second-round pick, and they got a second-round pick. It's not like they turned a second-round pick into a first-round pick, which is what they typically do with backup quarterbacks, is wherever they got them, they're able to get a round or 2 up. And quarterbacks are currency. And look, if he felt he was a franchise guy, to let him go midway through the season, it just doesn't seem to add up. Well, you could have kept him to the end of the season. You could have franchised him at the end of the season and then traded him if that's what you wanted to do. But now if Tom gets hurt next game, it's Brian Hoyer. And really, Bill, when he was looking at this, said, whether it's Brian Hoyer or Jimmy Garoppolo, we have the same chance to win moving forward.
Yeah, I don't think that Belichick thought Garoppolo, even though all the rumors this offseason, they were demanding 2 number 1s. I don't think Bill thought that Garoppolo was a franchise quarterback. I think that in his press conference, he said, we exhausted every angle to try to keep him. And it just was not sustainable. We tried. I know that they offered him a long-term contract. So in offering him that contract, Tom Brady's writing books. Tom Brady's telling everyone. His wife said, you should retire. Tom Brady's saying, I'm getting ready to play 3 to 5 more years. You know who hears that? Garoppolo hears that.
And they share an agent.
Right. They share an agent. So what I thought was big out of it, they couldn't get him traded for a number 1, but also Garoppolo, him and Brady have the same agent. Garoppolo's agent would not let him go to Cleveland. So Cleveland would have offered a number 1 and probably more, but they wouldn't let that trade happen because they didn't want Garoppolo there. They trust San Francisco and the management there with Shanahan and John Lynch and the overall security to put a team around them. So this was kind of an agent decision, and New England wasn't going to be able to pay him $18 to $20 million. Now, they could have franchised him, pulled the tag off of him, and also traded him, and that cap space is still there available. But I believe New England, this was the best they could get. Everyone else, let them watch them play their hand. They didn't have a great hand. So before the deadline, he's like, how can we salvage this before we lose him at the end of this season and get a draft pick for him?
Real quick, I just want to clarify one thing. Not clarify, but expand on one thing Cris said, because I think people are probably saying, wait, agents can't tell you where to trade to. What they can do is this. Nobody's given up. Cleveland, for example, is not giving up a first-round pick for Jimmy Garoppolo unless there's a commitment he is signing an extension there.
Yes.
And so what the agent can do is make it clear, you can trade me wherever you want, but we will not sign an extension there. That kills the trade dead in the water.
Okay.
So that's why you can have some power when a guy is a pending free agent, as opposed to San Francisco. If he knows he will sign an extension, then they're more likely to give something up.
Well, when you look at this, too, the reason I think they stayed away from Cleveland is because with the San Francisco trade, I know Hoyer got cut, but that to me was all part of this.
Yes,
the fact that
it was
Hoyer,
one deal.
Right, they were sending a quarterback, but they were getting a quarterback that had familiarity with their system. So if they had done the trade with Cleveland or another team, they would have had to try to find that backup. This was much more of a package type situation.
It was communicated between
the only reason,
Lynch and Belichick that we're going to let Hoyer go.
The only reason Hoyer was not included in the trade was because of contract and cap space.
Yes.
Like there was absolutely an understanding that if we make this trade, you are cutting Hoyer, and there was clearly an understanding that Hoyer was not going to sign with the Packers, that he was going to come sign with New England.
Coach, can you please tell me if Jimmy Garoppolo is a good football player? If Jimmy Garoppolo could be the franchise guy out in San Francisco? Because from what we've seen, we just don't know.
Well, that to me is the issue of trading for anybody who's only played 1 or 2 games. The people who are in the best position to assess that is the team that he's on. And to me, Bill is not looking to do anybody any favors.
Right.
And if he felt that guy was the next Tom Brady, maybe those efforts would have been exhausted a little bit more, or maybe you push it back till the end of the season. You have 8 games left with an older quarterback, and I know he's been resilient and he's avoided injuries for the most part. But you see Aaron Rodgers go down. You saw at the end of last season, Derek Carr go down, and the fact that they're saying, okay, we can win with Hoyer, just like we can win with Garoppolo, to me would be a red flag. Now, if I'm in San Francisco and I'm looking at the situation I have, it's worth an opportunity like this.
Let me ask you this quickly here, because I went into the year wondering whether or not Tom Brady, as great as he is at his age, if he can continue this sustained greatness. The Patriots this offseason wheeled and dealed unlike we've seen them do in many years, where they're trading future picks for current players, right? You trade a pick for Brandon Cooks, you trade a pick for Dwayne Allen, you move up to trade for Coney Ely. They could have traded Garoppolo this offseason. They chose not to. Was there not?
But do we really know that they could have traded? There's so much speculation.
Okay.
2 number ones.
I don't think they could have gotten 2 number ones. I think they could have gotten what they got here, a second-round pick. My question is this. Is it not possible that there was some of the skepticism I had about Brady, that there was within New England, they said, before we trade Garoppolo, let's see Tom play 6 to 8 games this year. Let's see if we feel like confident that he is going to be at this level next year before we get rid of the guy that can take over for him.
No, I don't think that's the case. I think there's absolute confidence in Tom, and there should be absolute confidence in Tom. And there's been nothing to indicate over the course of his career that he's not able to do the things he says that he's able to do. So I feel like that deal that the deals that everybody talked about really weren't there. And this was probably the best deal that they had been offered at this point. But it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out in San Francisco.
Moving on to LeBron James and the Cavs, a players-only meeting didn't seem to help them at all as they gave up 124 points to the Pacers. Maybe they needed to invite some non-players to that meeting. I don't know. This is Cleveland's 4th loss in a row. Here's LeBron James after the game.
We have an opportunity to be very good, but then you see, some of the laws that we have. It's just very difficult on our team right now. We're just trying to figure it out on the fly, and unfortunately, we don't have time to practice a lot and do those things.
Nick, I feel like I asked you this question a lot, and I'm very curious if your answer has changed at all. At what point will you start to worry about LeBron James and these Cavaliers?
Never. Not as long as LeBron's on the team. Not as long as LeBron's healthy. Well, we know he's going to be healthy. He's never been injured. Not as long as the Cavs can be the 8th seed, and they will be the favorites to come out of the East. They still have LeBron this year has been either the best player in the league or the second best player in the league through the first 2 weeks. Tim and Giannis arguing that you can argue for it. LeBron this year, somehow in year 15, has been better than average LeBron. It's career high in field goal percentage, career high in assists per game up to this point in the season. The problem for the
Is it a career high in turnovers too?
what? It's not a career high in turnovers. He's averaging 4.5 a game.
Oh, he's
He
averaging
had,
4.
I think, 8 last night.
He had a
eight
bunch of
last night?
turnovers last night.
Hey, Jenna, when you have 8 turnovers, you know you lose the potential to score 24 points. So when you start looking at the Cavs, Jenna, because I know you'll listen to me, because I know, see, we're broadcasters. We've been doing this a long time. And the more information you get, you tend to sometimes change your opinion based on the information.
Based on
or, like, sometimes there's cases in law, and they say there's video evidence. We got plenty of video evidence. So, for me, when LeBron has more turnovers than he does rebounds, there's not only a problem with the Cavs, there's a problem with LeBron. But I know, Jenna, me and you, we're objective. We've been doing this a long time.
Hold on. Cece. LeBron for the... Cece. You're just, while you stare at Jenna. LeBron for the year is giving you 26, 7, and 9 on 60% shooting.
Okay.
There's a problem
That's
with
what
LeBron.
he's supposed to be doing.
No,
the turnovers.
Okay, well, 26, 7, and 9 on 60% would never have been done by anyone in the history of basketball.
This is not a team that can afford the turnovers. So, listen, when you start looking at faults, just put 23 in there. Okay. All right? Because he's part of the problem, too. Did you watch the game last night?
Not only did I watch the game, you mentioned video evidence. I'd like to present some video evidence.
Oh, let's do it.
Here's the Cavs are down. We're going to show you 6 offensive possessions.
This is like high school.
This is 6 possessions in a row. They start this down 8. There's a LeBron dunk. This here is a LeBron and 1. He makes the free throw. Next play, LeBron gets you an open 3. It's missed. The next, that was a Corver open 3. The next play, LeBron gets you a wide open Crowder open 3. He misses. The next play down the court, LeBron gets a layup. And then the final play of this, another LeBron and 1. So he scores 10 points on those 6 plays. He gets you 2 open 3s.
Also, you missed the stanza in there where he went to the bucket and tried to throw a pass, and it was another turnover. No, you missed that clip.
CC, not in that stretch. 100%. Those were 6 plays in a row. They started that series down 8. They ended that series down 8. So LeBron played 6 perfect offensive possessions, generating 10 points himself and 2 open 3s for teammates. And what did the Cavs do?
So it's the rest of it's just the rest of the Cavs' fault.
Right now, 100%, absolutely, unquestionably.
So if LeBron has 3 turnovers, does that? I'm not into probability. I'm not into percentages. But if he has 3 turnovers, do they have a better chance to win?
Yeah, and if he scored 60 points on 30 shots, they'd have had a better chance to win. But you've got to look at the totality of the game.
Michael Jordan, you got to do what you got to do.
What?
Michael Jordan played with bad players. You got to do what you got to do. LeBron should have went for 45 last night. Look, that's what they need him to do.
Really?
145.
So 30.
It's about winning, Nick.
CC, 33 points, 11 assists on 64% shooting.
Hold that. That loss they got.
No. And
right? Because it's about winning.
CC, they allowed 30 points in every quarter of the game against the Pacers. Their defense right now is, I don't want to say irrevocably, but it's close to it. It's close to being unrepairably broken. Right now,
none of the defenders are good. They're not good as a defensive team. LeBron hadn't been good on defense. Love's not good on defense. JR hadn't been good on defense. You bring in D. Wade, he's not good on defense. It's the team, Nick. Spread it around, bro.
CC, the team right now is a total disaster. But if you watching the games, which I know you do because you were tweeting about the game, or just looking at the raw numbers, LeBron has, without a doubt, been one of the 2 best players in the sport this year.
Okay, but they have to get better. You can't keep saying they will.
Of course I can,
At some point, they have to get better.
Jenna,
because they're not an automatic lock into anything.
Yes,
they're not if they're
Jenna,
losing.
If Kyrie had gone for 33 and he had 8 turnovers, what would the storyline be?
Be a little bit different.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
I'm just trying to be fair.
Justin, look this up. If Kyrie has ever in his career gone for 33 points, 11 assists on a game where he shoots 64% from the field.
Let's go to James Harden last year. Let's go to Russell Westbrook because they had stat lines very similar to this.
And I loved those guys. Those guys were 2, 3 in my MVP vote.
But when you start having problems with Houston and OKC, you know what? You include them in being part of the problem.
Put the caffeine
you don't do that
in the decaf container again. Welcome back to First Things First. UFC 217 is Saturday at Madison Square Garden. George St. Pierre makes his return to the octagon after nearly 4 years. That seems like such a long time to me.
It is.
To take on middleweight champion Michael Bisping. And joining us now is Fox UFC analyst and current lightweight champion Daniel Cormier. Daniel, thank you so much for being with us. How are you?
Good. I appreciate you guys having me.
Thank you for having us. Thank you for being here, Dan.
You know, I think it was like 2 months ago that Conor McGregor fought, right? And I think the world that was not UFC fans was sort of introduced to UFC as more of a mainstream, and now it's everywhere. And now people are talking about it. Now people are looking forward to it. The audience that you didn't have before. Is the sport as big as it's been in a long time, or highlighted more now just because of McGregor's fight?
You know, there was a boom, right? So there was a boom in the beginning when Anderson Silva and those guys were kind of coming through, and then it slowed down. And then McGregor hit. He was almost like he's like a shooting star, right? He was something that you didn't expect coming in. To get a fight with Floyd Mayweather. And then people talk about, well, he's in over his head. But guys in boxing, guys that have fought in the Olympics, they would die for a fight with Floyd Mayweather.
Yes.
And this kid with no experience got it because of his star power. And yeah, it did shine a light on the sport. And having a guy like George St. Pierre coming back it just keeps it rolling a little bit.
Wait, well, hold on. Who else do you think could have fought? Who would you want to have seen?
Or a better
fight?
matchup.
Yeah.
I mean, there are a ton of guys, right? There are tons of guys that are boxers that would have wanted that fight, but Conor McGregor's just a star, man.
Star power,
nobody's
man.
bigger, right? Nobody's bigger than Conor McGregor.
You want that. You wanted to bring more eyeballs to it.
You do, yeah.
Let's talk about this event, UFC 217. So we, earlier in the show, were talking about Josh Gordon had been away from football for 3 years and how hard that's going to be. George St. Pierre takes on Michael Bisping.
Yeah.
George St. Pierre hasn't fought in 4 years.
Yeah.
Like, what do you expect to see? I know if people weren't big UFC fans, George St. Pierre's one of the best.
Yes.
But it's been 4 years. So what do you expect to see?
You know, he's been going around saying that he's going to be better. And yesterday I asked him, I go, George, he was on UFC Tonight, and I said, well, how can you say you're going to be better today? What are you basing this on? And he answered the question. And afterwards, he made a point to come back to me when we were off air and go, I promise you I'm going to be better. So he kind of thought I was calling him on his, calling his bluff. You know, he's like, I was like, well, I don't know what it's based on. But he's one of the greatest fighters of all time. This guy's coming back after 4 years and also up a weight class and fighting Michael Bisping, who has gotten better as he's gotten older. You know, he's another guy that does some of the shows, so he's learned from actually sitting at the desk and become a better fighter. It's going to be tough for George. It's much tougher than people actually believe, because Michael Bisping's no joke. But yeah, he's one of the greatest fighters of all time, and if he is a fraction of what he was, he'll still be as competitive, if not good enough to win the fight.
Bisping's on a 5-match streak.
Yes.
What would you credit late in his career to having this type of success? What type of adjustments has he made?
You know, I think part of it is when you start to try to look at the sport from the inside, right? That's something you get a lot in fighting. You know, current guys that are active still doing this type of stuff where you're studying and your opponents, you may actually sit up here and talk about him going into a fight without fighting him. So you can look at it without trying to find weaknesses in him. And I think he's taken that. And,
a lot like yourself,
yes,
as
of
an
course.
announcer.
Yes, and you apply it to your fight game, because now you can respect the guy for who he truly is. And Mike also has developed power. He's landed over 1,500 strikes in his career. And just in his last few fights, he's dropping everybody. He calls it left hook Larry, right? So he throws a left hook now, and he calls it left hook Larry. And I wish I didn't have to watch the highlight of him knocking out my teammate over and over again. Every time this guy fights,
Let's look at one
out
of
my
us.
friend.
Don't worry about it.
Hey, Daniel, the last time UFC was in Madison Square Garden was back in 2005, I think it was. Tell me what it's like to play in New York and at the Garden, one of the most storied one of the most storied places to
Last year I didn't come, but I watched it, right? And I watched Conor McGregor, and before Eddie Alvarez, lightweight champ, right? And McGregor walks to the center of the octagon, and he goes, and the people went crazy in New York, and I was like, this dude Alvarez might be in trouble. He's in trouble, you know? And then Conor goes and knocks. He just walked out. He just took it all in, and people were just like adoring him. I was like, look at the Garden. It was going crazy, you know? So to be in New York, there's this energy about the city that you don't get in other places, you know? So being here, it's crazy. We were out in front of the building last night doing UFC Tonight, and people were nuts. They were going nuts. We had all three champions fighting this weekend came on the show. It's a great energy, great environment. I mean, I can't wait till Saturday night.
I want to talk about you for a moment.
Yeah.
Because you've always been I knew you a little bit when I was in L.A., but you and I haven't spent a lot of time together. But you've always been fascinating to me from afar because you seem like a genuinely nice guy. Like, I think that's one of your reputations, like a good person, a nice guy. But you do what you do for a living aside from talking about it, the actual fighting. What type of mental gymnastics do you have to do to get mentally prepared to do true battle when you're in your day-to-day life a smiling nice guy
and a father, you know?
Yeah.
But hey, so you don't know me 8 weeks to the fight, right? Because I'm gone. Then I'm no more TV guy. You know, I don't wear the suits and all this. I'm in sweats. And I explain it like this. When I get to the arena and I'm in the back and there's 15,000 people out front and the crowd's going crazy, I feel alive, right? Every hair on my body is standing up. And then when that octagon door closes, I'm like, I'm home. I love it, you know? And it's a weird thing that I've done this 21 times now, and every time I'm about to fight, I can still hear the pin drop, right? Yeah. Right before everybody gets out of the ring and they drop this pin in the side, and I'm like, okay, it's time to go. You know, at first it was like, how did I get myself here, right? Where did I go wrong in my life that I'm fighting for a living?
Where's my tailor-made suit?
Man, I love it.
Where's my pocket square?
Exactly.
You have a 5-year-old and a 6-year-old?
Yes, I do.
Does it worry you at all when you're in there doing that they're going to watch you? It's hard for them to really understand what it is.
They don't get to watch.
It's hard for me,
they don't
Daniel,
get to watch.
They don't get to watch me fight yet. No.
Do they know what you do?
They do. And my son is
That was a pregnant pause is what that was.
My son likes it. Yes. You know, who doesn't want their dad to be a tough guy? You know, like, oh, my dad's the toughest guy, you know, and so my son likes it. My daughter, she likes My Little Pony, you know, she doesn't worry about fighting or any of that other stuff, you know, but yeah, man, it's you got to be able to turn it on and turn it off, you know, so I enjoy it, though. I've competed my whole life. I don't know how to do anything else.
How important is, because I kind of hear it in your voice, the skill level, to be able to prove to people that this is not pro wrestling, like this is an art form.
That's the one thing that we have had to do more now since Conor has come, right?
Yes.
Because Conor has brought that braggadocious type of attitude, tough guy, but he also was equally as gifted with his voice. And you see how people, they have drawn to him. So now you see guys kind of doing it. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. So you got to be very careful. But yes, a skill. It's not two guys locked in a bar somewhere trying to fight. You know, if you want to fight, if I said, Nick and Chris, you guys, let's go. Let's move the table, you go. You guys would fight hard, and you would try to take each other's heads off, but it may last 30 seconds, and you'd both be,
right.
You know, we got to fight 25 minutes.
Yes.
You know, so it's like I have to be very careful with how I approach these fights.
I took this rowing class last night, and I did some sprints.
You're exhausted.
By the way,
at the size of this guy's hand.
Or Chris, you wouldn't have to fight 25 minutes.
No,
look at Chris's hands.
I know. Listen, Daniel Cormier, thank you so much. Thank you for listening to the First Things First podcast. Remember, leave us a review and tell us what you think. Subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts and catch us on FS1 Monday through Friday, 6:30 a.m. Eastern. For Cris Carter and Nick Wright, I'm Jenna Wolfe. So long, everybody.